All right, folks. So I practice law every day in my life. Every day in my life, I have clients come into my office and they're angry, they're upset, they're pissed off, right? And they ask a bunch of questions. And obviously, their questions are related to what happened to them and what will happen to them in the criminal justice system in general, and so on and so forth. And these questions really demonstrate a real lack of understanding of how the system works, right? What is required to be arrested, so on and so forth. And these are all myths, right? People see things on TV, they read books, they watch movies, and they think that they know how the criminal justice system works. And it hurts them because they don't, right? And I want to talk about some of these myths. It's important, right, to make sure that we know what's true and what's not. Because, folks, look, you never know what will happen in life. You'll never know what situation you will be caught up in. And you have to know how to navigate the law and how to navigate the muddy waters of the law, right? So that you don't do something or say something that may hurt you or otherwise cause some suffering down the road. A lot of people, they come into my office, first thing they say, everyone does it, right? Everyone drives drunk. Everyone gets into fights. Everybody does X, Y, and Z. Everybody has domestic disturbances to some degree, right? And look, number one, you have limited resources, right? The police and the prosecutors in this world don't have unlimited money. They can't go after everybody who's ever committed a crime of any sort. That would be impractical and impossible, right? More than that, though, they have something called discretion. They have decision-making authority, right? Police and prosecutors decide who to arrest, generally speaking, right? What to do with the case, what to charge, how to move a case forward, what plea deals to offer, right? So prosecutors have that decision-making power. It's important to know that, right? This is the world in which you're operating. And oftentimes, prosecutors have very little oversight as to what they can and cannot do. So it's important to know that. Again, it's important to know the parameters of the system, right? It'll just be easier to work your way through the system if you do. But more importantly, as I tell a lot of people, look, sometimes in life, the stars just line up, right? You are caught in a system, somebody makes a complaint, you get a police officer who feels the need to make an arrest, you get an aggressive prosecutor. Sometimes these things line up. But by and large, the criminal justice system isn't designed to punish innocent people. It is not designed to nail you to the wall if you're not a real danger or a violent person. So you may find solace in that. Now, a lot of people come to me and they say, I didn't kill anybody. Why am I being punished? Right? Well, that's easy, right? Everybody knows that. And typically these things come out of emotion, right? But you don't have to kill somebody to be charged with a crime, right? Homicide crimes are a small fraction of what the crimes are that are prosecuted in this country, right? So there are white-collar crimes, there are what they call blue-collar or violent crimes, right? So you don't have to do something violent or serious or subjectively or objectively crazy to be caught in the criminal justice system, right? So you always got to be careful. Now, a lot of people come to me and they say, well, I know they think that they have certain evidence, but they have no proof. Prosecutors have no proof. There's no text message. There's no email. There's no photo. There's no video. And that makes sense. That makes sense. I get that approach, right? But let's keep in mind, right? Proof is only required in court and really at trial, right? That's when proof comes into the equation, when prosecutors have to prove a case beyond a reasonable doubt, right? They have to put forth admissible evidence to further that goal, right? But I assure you, folks, if you think that lack of proof or what you may consider proof is enough to keep you out of trouble, I assure you, that just means you've likely never been charged with a crime or indicted. And that's a good thing. But if you are charged or indicted, you will learn very quickly that even if there is no proof, even if evidence is lacking, by the time you make it through the system, and that could take months and years, you will be typically emotionally drained, right? You will be physically exhausted. You will be financially broke, right? Oftentimes. So it's important to distinguish the proof, right? The ability to be convicted of a crime, go to trial, prove your innocence, with being caught up in the system. Going through the process itself is just as painful as sometimes being punished for what you may or may not have done, right? So focus less on proof, because proof matters only at certain distinct points in the system. And don't forget, well over 90% of cases, depending where you are in the country, what court you are in, don't go to trial, right? They end prior to trial. So proof matters, but it matters at certain points in the system. It does not matter when you're being arrested, right? All that's required for an arrest is probable cause. It's a very low standard. There is no proof required to be put in handcuffs, arrested, put through the system, arraigned on a crime, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. Now, a lot of people also ask, do I need a lawyer for this? That's a funny question. And look, to be quite honest, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you don't need a lawyer to handle some minor offense, minor crime, minor infraction violation. I would always want a lawyer. I go to a specialist when I have an issue. I go to an expert when I have an issue. But I will not lie to you. There are times where you don't need a lawyer. Some people feel more comfortable with having a lawyer, right? The biggest part of having a lawyer is that you don't make statements, right? Your lawyer is your mouthpiece, so to speak. So as you see on TV, as they say, right? Anything you say can be held against you. And when you have a lawyer, you're not saying anything by definition, right? Your lawyer is talking to the police, the prosecutors, the courts, right? So sometimes you don't need a lawyer. I would highly recommend against defending yourself in a case, particularly at a crucial point, such as a bail hearing or an evidentiary hearing, obviously a trial, right? Because there are certain laws that obviously come into play that you may not know. So by and large, again, legally, you never need a lawyer. I would always recommend at least talking to a few and seeing what they say, because you may shoot yourself in the foot, and you never want to be in that position. So a few myths about the criminal justice system, folks. Hope it helps.